Hi, today we will be presenting education inequalities within the magnet school programs. My name is Rachel Harris.
And my name is Tamara, Gruslova.
So a little bit about the introduction to magnet school programs. Magnet schools are a school with a special program or theme, whether that be math or science, Montessori, creative and performing arts. So magnet schools are innovative and they're open to all students regardless of zip code. Like I said previously, magnet schools include different themes, whether that be STEM, fine and performing arts, IB programs, career and technical education, and world languages. There are currently 4,340 elementary and secondary magnet schools within the U.S. today. So what are the requirements for getting into a magnet school program? So due to high demand, most schools determine students' acceptance by a lottery system. So this requires a first come, first serve basis. So normally once the application is pulled, they normally will conduct interviews with the applicants, while the ones focused on the arts will often be required to audition. So here's a table that shows the differences between magnet schools versus public schools. So for magnet schools and public schools, there's no tuition to enroll. But for magnet schools, there is an entrance exam, whether that be an audition or an interview. But for public schools, students are not required to take an entrance exam. For magnet schools, they receive additional funding for their specialized programs. And for public schools, they receive federal funding for overall school system. So what are some of the equalities faced by students within magnet schools? So the first would be smaller classes. Most magnet schools are smaller in size, which is a part of their appeal, but it can also lead to a large percentage of students who want to attend but are unable. Second would be the competitive admissions process. Most magnet schools use a lottery system to accept students or accept students on a first come, first serve basis. So a lot of students don't get in because of this. And thirdly would be transportation. Most families find that they are responsible for delivering their students to the school. Parents must pick the child up from school at the end of the day as well. So this can be a hindrance if the parent does not have a way of transportating the child to and from school every day.
All right, so what is the history of magnet schools? Magnet schools first came into being in the late 1960s and early 1970s as a tool to further academic desegregation in large urban school districts. Magnets were intended to attract students from across different school zones, serving as a magnet to attract talented students. The number of magnet schools has increased rapidly since federal court rulings accepted magnet programs as a method of desegregation in the mid-1970s. By 1975, the term magnet had caught on quickly, and in just 4 short years, the federal government was using the term. In 1985, the Federal Magnet Schools Assistance Program was authorized to provide grants to magnet schools. And between 1982 and 1991, the number of individual schools offering magnet programs nearly doubled, and the number of students enrolling in these programs almost tripled. By the end of the 1991 to 1992 school year, more than 1.2 million students were enrolled in magnet schools in 230 school districts. And in 2016 alone, the number of magnet schools totaled 4,340 across 46 states. So the states with the most magnet schools are Michigan, Florida, California, and Texas. Next slide, please. All right, so although magnet schools have some benefits, they struggle for diversity. Magnet schools are less likely to have the same socioeconomic status, SES, mix than regular public schools have. Some say that this comes as a result of replacing the core principle of promoting diversity with the purpose of improving academic achievement. Critics of magnet schools also often cite how magnet schools hurt nearby public schools by taking away the brightest students who are naturally drawn to magnet schools. Likewise, with the increased popularity of magnet schools, acceptance rates have narrowed and subsequently increased admissions criteria. Thereby, the selection process is prone to exclude students who may benefit from magnet schools and act as an impassable hurdle for underrepresented students. For example, low-income students, non-native English-speaking students, and special needs students may be more likely to be unfairly excluded. Another illustration of this is the academic magnet high school in Charleston, South Carolina, which experienced a 7% drop in minority enrollment in the 2020 to 2021 school year, despite their efforts to diversify. Next slide, please. So the idea of magnet schools is to help those flourish in various subjects in order to help students further their interests and knowledge within these areas. Although magnet schools' expensive admissions criteria may prevent deserving students from entering and hinder diversity. So keeping these downsides in mind, here are some of our proposed solutions to this issue. First, location. Including varied locations that include a variety of socioeconomic levels will allow more diversity, as students of all backgrounds would be able to more easily access these schools. Next, funding. Giving equal funding to all schools will attract people of all backgrounds, as currently predominantly white locations look structurally better than those in other areas, repelling certain prospective students. And lastly, admissions. Loosening the criteria for admission would allow talented students to enter the schools regardless of traditional constraints, which may not accurately represent a person as a whole.